All right, let's do it live on a Monday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Beau. He is the great Gibbe. Well, it didn't rain for 3 weeks, and then it hasn't stopped in 24 hours or thereabout.
Yeah, great. Who's ready for it to be over?
60 degrees. I took Buddy Garrity out this morning for his walk, and he just, as soon as we walked out the door, he just looked up to me like, really? You sure? 57 and rain? Really, Dad? This is what we're going to do? We're going to go do this?
I took my
Brutal.
dog. So my older dog, like it was a misting rain. He took 2 steps outside and was like, "I'll hold it for 16 hours. I'm not doing this."
Road, Dad.
Yep.
I don't believe I will do this. For those of you wondering, this is basically Seattle. In my experience being in Seattle, which I've got family that lives out there, this is basically the weather you're dealing with there, where it's in the 60s and it's misting and raining. Kind
Awful.
of like what we've had the last 24 hours. Yeah, it's tough. Beggars can't be choosers. Like the lawns were crispy, like it's time. But as you look into we can't have anything in moderation. We either have drought and 90 or just cold.
Just give me a
rain,
day where it rains. Okay.
And then it's nice. That's it.
You know, I was happy because the rain held off for most of the day yesterday. I think it was like 4 or 5 o'clock. So really, you got a full weekend in.
Yeah, it was.
Again.
It was most of the day.
Yeah. So that part was fine, but then it just never stopped.
No.
Like I went to bed and I'm like, are we going to have some flooding issues?
Yeah.
Because the steadiness of the rain was like someone just turned the hose on over the top.
Yeah,
and
it's just it was thick. And, I mean, honestly, it's great for the lawns and the golf courses and the parks, and we needed it. We were low for sure. It just looks like we're going to be in it for a little while. Tomorrow's around this too, right? 60s and 80% chance of rain. And
yep, exactly.
We'll have this for a while. I'm glad we did not have this for mini.
Although, I feel like by Wednesday there's like just showers in the morning and then it moves out, in part because I have a golf outing. But
I hope it does for you. I hope you get a nice day on Wednesday afternoon.
Let's see.
A little first Friday afternoon for the Gibbe.
Yeah, at least I was hoping, the one day off I take here. From an hourly standpoint, no, it's supposed to rain.
Like all day, right?
Yeah. It's through about 10 a.m. Thunderstorms tomorrow night into Wednesday. Oh, so we switched to a whole different breed of weather. Yeah, what could go wrong?
Jeez, man.
I mean, it's like an 80% chance of rain all day tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. It's been pretty brutal across the board. So
Great.
We're gonna be in for this a little bit. You could have given me a heads up that dogs can't eat sunflower seeds. That would have been a nice heads up out of you.
I did not know this.
Now you do.
Grapes and chocolate are on the definite.
They can't know. No, and those two as well.
They can die immediately.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good to know. So I've kept that stuff away from them. NBC and his buddy, they were at our house on Friday acting like big shots because they figured out how to eat sunflower seeds finally, as opposed to just sticking them all in and chewing them.
Gotcha.
So they started actually eating them the correct way. And apparently, and I say apparently that I was not there. I can only go from the evidence that showed up a little bit later as I walked him in the next day.
No.
That apparently he consumed a great many sunflower seeds, and they came up and out in varying ways until Sunday. I think his Sunday evening routine was relatively normal. All the rest of it was incredibly liquefied. So that was fun. The only benefit of it was that the weather was great. So it's not like it wasn't in the house.
Okay.
It was all outside.
You could
but
deal
even
with that.
He did a deuce the other day. This would have been Sunday morning, and I live in a society. I'm a pick up the deuce guy, and I looked at it and I go, I don't even know I can't get my hands around that. I basically just need rain to make it go away. That's kind of where we're at with it.
And that definitely happens, especially with our younger one, because she'll eat random things she's not supposed to.
Yeah.
And you're like if the owner of the house came out, I'd be like, can I borrow your hose?
Right, that's where we're at.
Like I don't know how to. I can't pick that up.
I can't make this right.
No, I don't know how to make that right.
You need like Egon.
Yeah.
And his thing. You need that to be able to make it work.
I need a wet shop vac or something.
That's kind of where you're at.
Yeah. But that part goes away. That goes away relatively quickly. It's pick up the other stuff.
Yeah, as I was leaving today to come over here, he went to the undisclosed location on the west side of Cleveland, which, by the way, Kevin Stefanski will join us at 2 o'clock.
Here.
So he'll be here at the undisclosed
Yes.
location. Yeah, that to look forward to, which is very nice. As I was heading over here, Buddy has always stayed in the basement. Like, he hasn't come up. Like, there's no fence or anything. He just stays down there. I say stay, and he stays. That's it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. That appears to have changed as I was leaving.
There's a whole new world upstairs.
There's a whole new world upstairs. And number 2 and number 3 were, like, playing Xbox or something. I'm like, it might be because he's bored of you two idiots playing Xbox. Like, maybe throw him a ball, and maybe he'd stay down here because, of course, I like to take it out on them. So we'll see. But as I was leaving, I just heard my wife yell, "No, buddy, no." So I think I know how that's going to go.
Our youngest, she torments my youngest kid. Like, any of her stuff, she will chew up.
She's into it, yeah.
But not anybody else.
Yeah.
But she will take, like, if you haven't walked her or maybe paid enough attention to her,
Yeah.
she will grab your shoe. She will not chew it. She will take it and she will put it in weird places and just go, "Hey, FYI, I'm still here in the house."
Just so you know.
I came home Friday from work.
Little scavenger
My
hunt.
wife's sandal is in the middle of the bed. I'm like, well, I know my wife didn't leave that there. And then, like, my tennis shoe the one day is in the middle of the living room floor.
That's
and
right.
she's, like, just standing right by it.
Hey,
like,
Dad.
hey, dummy, were you going to do something?
Maybe I need to be entertained a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, let's go outside. We'll throw the ball for 10 or 15 minutes.
Make me a bicycle clown.
Yeah.
Hey, this was cool to see over the weekend. The big crowds for the Gardos in back-to-back series, 155,000 I saw in the 2 series. So that's great to see. Playing a little bit better ball there, so that was cool to see as well. Speaking of professional sports teams in Ohio that we are connected to, did you happen? I'm sure that you haven't, unless you just saw it on social because it's all on Apple TV Plus. The Columbus Crew, which is owned by our ownership, Haslam Sports Group, their star player Lucas Zelarayan made a goal in the 93rd minute from 61 yards away.
I did not see this.
There's a turnover. So it's tied 1-1 with Chicago. There's a turnover on the other side of midfield. Zelarayan uncorks it. The goalie's out, which is the goalie should be out at that point. He's trying to provide help for the team, trying to get his Chicago team. Zelarayan puts it on the screws and makes it to win it.
61 yards.
61 yards, yeah. Longest walk-off in MLS since 2010. There's one that was 40 yards out, but it was on the other side of midfield. That he made.
They're playing some pretty good soccer these days.
Well, they've invested a great deal in that operation, and it's absolutely worked. And it was a good weekend. So you had that, and then you had the Champions League, Man City and Inter as well, which was fun. That was fun to watch. The golf. Did you see this live or did you see this?
Oh no, I got a message in our golf league chat and the hooligans chat that said, "Holy putt."
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I should go find out what that's all about.
So, Nick Taylor, 75 feet on the putt, is to win the RBC. First Canadian to win the RBC since like 1954. So it's been a minute since a Canadian golfer has won the RBC. He wins it in the 4th playoff hole after really a pretty thrilling back 9. Fellow golfer and Canadian Adam Hadwin then races out to spray him with champagne, at which point he gets form tackled by security.
It's a pretty spectacular tackle.
Yeah, and I thought Hadwin had a great sense of humor about it, like put it in the Louvre. It was pretty good across the board. I did like that.
This is the only thing I would say.
Mm-hmm.
The gentleman has a big bottle of champagne. He wasn't walking around the course all day with that. Like, if you're on that green,
yeah,
something tells me that you are allowed to be there.
I agree with you, but I also think that we cannot have security guards determining in real time who should be there and who isn't. They're basically like, see it, go.
Yeah.
Like, is
this a threat?
What do they say in you're a big fan of Band of Brothers, like, is it Flash Thunder?
Flash Bang?
No, remember when they land in Normandy and he goes flash and then the other guy goes thunder.
Yes.
If you don't say thunder right away, you're dead.
Yeah.
Basically. because that's the only way to know thunder was the opposite of
totally
flash.
forgot about
So
that.
you'd go flash, thunder. That's kind of what it's like if you're a security guard.
Yeah.
Like you don't have time
No.
to see who anybody is or look at a face. I was trying to think of the minimum. What would be the minimum amount of fame that wouldn't have gotten tackled in that situation? Like if it were Rory, would the security guard have tackled him? My hunch is no. But I don't think there are many on the PGA Tour who would have not been tackled.
And
most, I think, would have been.
I got a feeling Canada, they've got some extremists maybe going on. They've got some things because they were awful quick to the bell to take that guy down.
Well, my guy had perfect form on the tackle. So that's the form that we teach in youth football now, where used to tackle, you'd put the head on the ball. Now they teach kids to tackle opposite ball, have the head on the other side of the ball on the tackle. So he even nailed that part of it, which was pretty cool.
I mean, it was great because the golfer, he wins the golf match.
That's right.
He's celebrating with his caddy. His caddy is the one that comes to the defense.
That's right.
Because the golfer's like, what am I supposed to do? And the caddy's like, just keep hugging all those people. I'm going to go take care of this.
Pretty great. Really great to see. U.S. Open is this week at LACC. So they'll all be there.
So that means late day into the evening golf.
Yeah, which can be a win, especially if we have crummy weather. I hope that you get a chesty group of live guys, not because I was rooting for them or not, but just because I think the sport needs the conflict.
Yes.
So I don't want kumbaya at their availabilities. I hope that they all kind of butt heads a little bit. I think it would be fun. And Rory kind of intimated, well, not kind of, flat out said, I hate live last week.
Yeah.
When he had his availability on Wednesday. So I hope that there's more of that to be coming by the time you get to the those will be Tuesday, Wednesday, I believe. Will be the U.S. Open availabilities. It'll be tomorrow and Wednesday.
Yeah.
So
and no
Phil
Tiger still?
No Tiger, no. He's done for the year. But I think Phil should be quite chesty, I would think. Everything he said about the PGA Tour like 4 years ago is true. It was all true. So
here's the thing. Like, do you got to play it close to the vest because the PGA commissioner, like you still have to apply for reinstatement potentially?
To who are you asking for?
To this PGA, to this new commissioner.
But don't you think he's a puppet? Like you're gonna appeal to the guy who you already work for.
I don't know. I keep
the guy running the Saudi Royal Trust is the guy who's the boss.
And I've been impressed. ESPN's had some great coverage and kind of lays it out on a daily basis what's going on.
Yeah.
Like as they get stuff, they've done a really nice job with their coverage. And that just continues to be the big question is how do they handle the reinstatement of these guys? Is it a reinstatement or is it, hey, everybody, we're all back together? And
I think it's the other way. I think what they'll try to do is make the PGA Tour guys they offered money to, I think they'll try to make them whole a little bit, or at least partially whole. That no one's reapplying for anything because the person they're going to reapply to is the guy who owns the whole golf. Yeah. And that's the people they work for.
Now, I saw
Monahan's not going to have any say in anything.
I saw something like from an equity standpoint that the players that went to live wouldn't have equity in this joint venture, but that there would be stakes and shares for the other golfers to make up for basically them deciding not to take $100 million originally.
I see no scenario how anybody who did not go with live wins. I mean, they're all going to win financially and all of that, but those guys who win are going to win the biggest.
Yes.
And I see no scenario how it goes any other way than that. Did you see this story out of Florida? We talked last week about the Jacksonville Jaguars and playing their home games and how they're going to decide to do all of that. Gainesville was mentioned. They talked about doing something even to their downtown baseball stadium for their minor league affiliate. It was like 30,000 seats.
Yeah, they were gonna have to add like 10 or 12,000 seats to get to 30 to be able to host NFL games.
Well, now there is a conversation that they could play home games at Daytona International Speedway. That is a mammoth structure. Like there is a lake in the middle of that. It's like Indy. I mean, it's a mile and a half. There's a lake in the middle of it that you can like water ski on. It's big enough. So I see no scenario how that's a win. Like, to me, Gainesville makes the most sense by 100 miles and just do it there, unless I see no scenario why they would want to go all the way to Daytona. And that feels like that's further than I think most people think it is, from Jacksonville to Daytona. I could
would
be
agree
wrong,
with
but
that.
I think it's more like 3 hours.
What can we just make it easy? Like, if you're gonna go to a college football stadium, like, it's no offense, but it's not like Jacksonville's got this ginormous fan base that's going to follow them around.
Oh, it's only an hour and 20 minutes. It's much
Daytona?
closer than I thought.
Wow.
Daytona from Jacksonville is an hour 20.
But like you
I would
said,
not have
where
guessed
are
that.
you going to put it?
Missed that.
It's not like you can it's not like taking a basketball arena and putting a curtain up to cover half of it, or a football dome and covering it.
I just think the amount of work you'd have to do to get that turf playable for NFL, in addition to the stadiums, the temporary stadium. Maybe the infield's big enough that they could play it in that tri-oval. I don't know. And keep the stands, the grandstands? I don't know. That seems crazy to me.
Yeah,
it's bigger than you. It's huge.
I guess like when Illinois, when the Bears played in Champaign, I was living in Springfield and I was covering everything for the Bears and for the Illini. The biggest dilemma was they were not allowed to have alcohol they could not sell alcohol inside the stadium.
Right, because of campus.
So they literally had to build structures just on the outside that people could buy, and they were allowed to take it into the stadium, but they couldn't buy it in the stadium. It was something ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I believe that to be I'm sure that is exactly how that was. Now, most of those, and Ohio State was one of the last to do it. Most of them now you can purchase beer and alcohol in the stadium. So I assume you could do that in Florida. They're typically faster to the game.
Why
than
not
ever.
just do the games at the Swamp?
My guess is they don't want. I'm guessing that they don't want to jump through the hoops that the University of Florida is making them jump through to play it. But it would be set up. I'm guessing they're just trying to find alternatives in case it doesn't come through at the Swamp. But that would be the place to do it.
Yeah,
it'd be to do it there.
We're overthinking.
How many years did the Bears do it there?
2. It was 2 long years.
And that wasn't that long ago, and now they're already looking for another stadium. The other one that did it most recently was Minnesota, and they waited until they built the Golden Gophers a stadium, and then after that was completed, I think the Vikings maybe even helped with the building of it.
I think they did, and I remember they had the home playoff game when it was like 5 degrees.
Yeah.
It was in the afternoon. Their kicker missed the field goal to win it. Former Brown, I believe.
That's still the coldest. Now, I was not at our game this year on Christmas Eve, but the coldest game I've ever been to was Ohio State, Minnesota in 2014 there. It was -11 air temp, and you couldn't operate. You really couldn't operate.
No, gear doesn't work at that temperature.
No. Your limbs don't work at that temperature. Nothing. None of it works. It's all a fail across the board. Hopefully this program is anything but a fail to you. It shouldn't be. We've got all sorts of luminaries. As I mentioned, Coach will join us in the 2 o'clock hour. Jake will join us here in about 15 minutes. We're off and running on a Monday edition, Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Last time with their new home exteriors, now introducing new composite clad siding featuring a beautiful deep grain look of real wood in 20 available colors. Keep that just installed look for a lifetime with this low maintenance siding option. Right now, take advantage of no interest or payments for 24 months. Renew Home Exteriors, superior products and superior service. Visit renewestimate.com. As we go around the league, Jake will join here in about 10 minutes. Tampa Bay is going to wear the creamsicle uniforms against former NFC Central rivals Detroit on October 15th. It's the first time they've worn the creamsicles since 2012. Probably the biggest miss in recent NFL history that they had 3 seasons of Tom Brady, including one season where everybody knew you were going to get a second helmet, and you did not have these ready last year for him. I mean, that's just stupefying.
Well, is that Tampa Bay or is that the league?
No, it's Tampa Bay because last year we could wear a second helmet.
Last year was the first year. I thought we had to wait a year.
No, last year you had the ability. Everybody knew it was coming. Last year you had the ability to wear a second shell. A lot of teams wore the second shell last year, and the Bucs weren't ready, and so they missed it. So now, who's going to buy the creamsicle? How many 12s would they have sold? And I don't know if they can even do 12 now that he's not on their team. I'm sure they can't make them in their team shop.
I don't think so.
I don't know. But I mean, geez, I feel like you'd want to wear it. You would have wanted to take advantage of that, and they didn't.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So
and that goes back to how long did you think you were going to have him for, Tampa?
I mean, they had him 3 years, which is longer than I think he wanted to be there.
Yep.
But they had 3 years worth of it. So, I mean, to not take advantage of that is pretty crazy. Saquon Barkley not attending Giants mandatory minicamp and says he could sit out the season. So he wants a contract?
Yes. So
he got these guys?
He got franchised.
Yeah.
I think the franchise tag is like $10.2 million.
Yeah.
Well, that's the going rate for a running back.
It sucks, but it's the reality.
Yeah. And if you want to know how good or bad things go when it comes to franchise tags and sitting out a season, ask Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Because his career was done.
Yeah, it was cooked at that point. You're not going to get any more Ezekiel Elliott contracts.
No.
It's done.
Todd Gurley contracts.
Those contracts are done. So it's just – I don't know if it'll ever zag back to where running backs are compensated richly again. My hunch is probably not. But this is where the league is right now. You're just not paying it. So if you're the Giants, okay, sit out.
Yeah.
Look who's out there in free agency. Kareem Hunt's available in free agency.
Yep.
Ezekiel Elliott's available in free agency. Dalvin Cook's available in free agency. Hell, it's possible Joe Mixon will be available in free agency if they can't rework his deal at some point this summer.
Yeah.
By the way, the Bengals have mandatory minicamp this week. If you were to say that we would be sitting here June 12th and there would not be a Burrow extension, I would have said you're nuts. Most people down there, conventional wisdom was they had it all the way to the finish line and that it would be done by the time free agency happened in March. It never happened. Nothing to worry about for them. It'll be fine.
No, and he doesn't seem worried.
No. He's fine, but I do think that it's surprising that a deal isn't done. And I know there's multiple moving parts, including, as I mentioned, the Mixon part of it. They've got Higgins that they want to sort out long term, and then you got Chase coming in 2 years. So they've got a lot that they're juggling to try to make it all work, and so maybe they're all tied together. But I still think if someone would have said, do you think you'll have a Joe Burrow deal by the summer, I would have said, yeah. And you don't have one.
And congratulations. This is what good teams have to deal with.
Right.
Especially when you have a franchise quarterback.
Well, and it's weird, too, that the other thing that makes their situation even more difficult is Higgins and Burrow are in the same class, and Chase is in the next class.
Yep.
So they're all going to need to be paid at the same time. You know, even the Chiefs or the other teams that have landed these quarterbacks, you usually don't have to pay them all at the same time. Like,
sure.
You can kind of balance it. They're in a position where they have to pay them all at the same time. I did see this morning reports that Washington could be open to trading Chase Young, who's been, quite frankly, wildly disappointing. Just 9 sacks so far in his career. He's been hurt a lot.
Yeah.
But if you would have said coming out of Ohio State, he felt like a Bosa, like a sure thing lock stock. So they potentially could see even more movement when it comes to what they're trying to do. It was the teams that I was reading this morning. It was the Bears, the Lions, and the Seahawks were the three teams that, I mean, Detroit would make opposite Hutchinson. That'd be a full day.
Yeah.
I think.
I don't think that's something that I want to deal with if I'm in the NFC North.
No. So that could be one where you get somebody where you kind of get them on the cheap.
But though you said Lions, Seahawks,
Bears.
and Bears, like that's all NFC. So
Yeah.
he's staying in the NFC. I think if you're Washington,
Yeah, I just think that I know where your head's at, and I think you're probably right. Like, if you punt on him early and he becomes who you think he was,
yeah,
I don't know if you want to see him all the time.
no,
The other thing I saw, did you see Buda Baker?
I didn't. I've been in and out today.
Yeah, so Buda Baker requested a trade in Arizona, so could be in a situation where you're talking about a full-on fire sale there, as everyone's trying
well,
to
it
get
should
out.
be.
Yeah,
I mean, it should be. You shouldn't play the quarterback. You should just your roster is already devoid of a lot of talent. Just play for that top pick and a new quarterback, and then get the other one out of there.
yeah. I think you're just going to have to figure out how you can punt on it. Like, how do you punt on Kyler? Who's the taker there?
Yeah, correct.
You know?
Yeah,
That's the
because
thing that's
clearly the
tricky.
book's out on him.
Yeah, and I think you're going to have a chance to get a guy that everybody would want in Caleb Williams, and if that's the case, you're going to want to try and get after that. Would be my guess on that side of things, my friend. All right, we'll get some perspective on minicamp from our good bud Jake Trotter. He joins us coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. There's serious injuries, call 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk & Elk's proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Head out on the Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea Hotline, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. ESPN NFL Nation Browns reporter Jake Trotter joining us. Belated happy birthday, buddy. Did you get everything your little hearts desired?
Yeah, thank you very much. So we went to the Guardians game on Friday
for
my birthday with the family, which was the 14-inning affair. We left after the 9th inning. There's no way we're going to make it. But I noticed coming out of the ballpark, my kids all had gifts from the team store. My wife got like a tank top from the team store. And though it was my birthday, I was the only person that did not get a souvenir from the baseball game. So I guess that's just being part of being a dad. But I did notice it. I didn't say anything, but I did notice it walking to the car.
Do you find, because I find this I've lived that experience more times than I can count, my friend, with my family. Do you find that your children they're like, with my boys, if we go to anything like that, like they're just looking for the store. Like they're just eyes out of the corner of their eye. Where's the store, Dad? What are we going to get? Like that's their whole operation, I'm convinced.
Yeah, I think if like somebody brings it up to them, it becomes a point of emphasis, which is what my wife did. She said we should go to the team store later, and I was like, well, that's $200 out the door. They're more focused during the game on the kids clubhouse. There you go. Like that's, once we get through the ice cream in the helmet, like that's the new focus for them is the clubhouse.
Okay.
And then if we can like just avert their eyes from any team store, we're okay.
Yeah.
But, I think my wife intended to like go there to get me something, and then I didn't get anything and everybody else got something. So
they all loaded up.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Hey, speaking of baseball or sports related, you're an Oklahoman. When did Oklahoma decide they were going to be great at softball? And was it a conscious decision? For folks who don't know, they've won 3 straight College World Series. Tons of people watch this stuff. It's amazing the numbers they're getting on ESPN for this. They lost 1 game this year in a sport where that's not supposed to be possible. Were you there when they decided, hey, this is going to be our thing?
Oh, I was there. I mean, I'm trying to remember. So the College World Series, the Women's College World Series, has been in Oklahoma City for a long time. I can't give you the exact number, but I mean, it's decades. It's been there for a long time. And in order to keep it, they renovated the Hall of Fame stadium where it's at. It's like a little bit like northeast of downtown, I guess would be a way to kind of to describe where it's located. So it seats like 14,000 people. So like the city has made a big commitment to hosting that event. And if you've seen, some of the TV shots, I mean, they had a ton of people that come in town for the tournament. And so I think kind of in conjunction with Oklahoma City being the place for softball, Oklahoma and even Oklahoma State. I mean, Oklahoma State has been to the Women's College World Series like 3 out of the last 4 years. So they're building off this as well. But, just it becoming the softball mecca of the country, I think it's made it a lot easier to recruit there. And then they have, the preeminent coach in the game in Patty Gasso as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think they kind of have gone hand in hand. And as the popularity of the sport has risen and you see Oklahoma there every year and the tournaments in Oklahoma City, I think it's helped them build the program up to where it is, which I don't know. Is it the most dominant college program, regardless of any sport, going right now? It has to be.
They lost 1 game. Like
3
there's no
national championships.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of precedent. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of precedent for that in that sport. I mean, there's so much randomness in it. It's on a very short list, certainly, that they've been able to do it. Hey, let's talk a little bit about what we saw last week. I said last week on the show, the Watson performance, the day 1 of minicamp, the 9 of 10, 9 touchdown, red zone 7-on-7 thing. I thought it was necessary, Jake. I think he needed to have a day like that in front of everybody, in front of all the media, in front of all of his team, and so that almost like, this is who I am. I thought it was necessary. Is necessary too far of a step?
Well, I think it was positive. And, you know, we watch these OTAs and these minicamp practices. And, again, there's no pass rush. There's no pads. A lot of it is kind of like three-quarter speed. So, you know, it's not going to ramp up until we get to training camp. And I want to say it was the first public OTA. Like, Watson was really bad. I mean, it was rough. Like, the defense completely dominated. There were some interceptions. I mean, it just was off target, it seemed like, across the board. It looked a lot like what we saw during games last season. And then the second OTA was noticeably better. And then you mentioned it, like, he was just on fire. Not so much the third day minicamp, but definitely that first day where he went, you know, 9 touchdown passes on 10 plays from inside the 10-yard line, I think is kind of where they were spotting the ball. And then he was very good, very sharp again on the second day of minicamp. I think the defense kind of got the better of the offense on the third day, which the defense needed to do too, because they've gotten absolutely stomped out for those first 2 days. But I mean, this is the thing about Watson. Like, you talk to people when he was coming back from the suspension last year, and they were saying the same stuff about the way he was performing in practice. And I saw him last offseason and training camp look the way he kind of did this week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the talent is there. Like, we know what the potential is. It's just him putting it together in actual games, and we're not going to have the answer to that until we get to the games. But is it positive that he was sharp and on point this week in terms of, you know, the Browns' upside for the 2023 season? I don't think there's any question about it. And he was definitely impressive. But I think it's you got to point out that, like, he was impressive last year too. It wasn't like he struggled every time in practice, and that was kind of a precursor for the games. I think a lot of people were surprised behind the scenes how much he struggled, given how dominant he was in the 3-week ramp-up leading to his return on the field last December.
This is the thing that's tricky, and I'm sure you feel this too in your coverage, and, you know, we talk about it, and I talk about it in the morning, I talk about it here. There is a sense of, yeah, great, but show me September. So I almost feel like I have to, every conversation that we have here, anything of a positive nature, it's almost like I acknowledge that none of this really matters if he's not great in September. I think we all know that. But at the same time, like, there's so shark bit in terms of the off season that it feels like it's more than ever a show me. We're not Missouri. We continue to be in Ohio, but it feels like Browns fandom is really at a show me state situation.
Yeah, and I think that you can glean a little bit more from training camp than you can minicamp and OTA.
Sure.
It's just really, I mean, like, you even ask people on the team, like, you know, is any, you know, are there a couple of guys that, like, you're surprised by, or, you know, who showed up, you know, in impressive fashion? I mean, you get a little bit of that, but even they will say, like, we don't know. You don't know until you get to training camp. We're just trying to, like, you know, learn some schemes, get used to the new coaches, you know, get everybody here, you know, shake some rust off. It's very difficult for us to really get a lot out of it, I think, based on my experience. And I think it's difficult for the Browns themselves to really know a whole lot coming out of OTAs in minicamp. I mean, training camp, when you get the pads on, that's where you really begin to find out. And, I think, we've seen at times, like, you go back to, my first year on the beat, the 2019 preseason. I mean, there was just a lot of, like, you remember that Indy joint practice where, you know, it's just like it didn't seem like this team was super disciplined. And obviously that, you know, right out of the gate came to fruition in that Tennessee game when they had like 21 penalties.
Right.
You know, you remember like Baker and Odell, like, never really seemed in sync that 2019 training camp. And that obviously came to fruition as well. So, like, I think in training camp, you can start to be like, okay, like, this is something to keep an eye on. Or this is a positive development. Somebody like DPJ last year in training camp. But, you know, I think all of it is positive this time of year, but, like, you just have to, I think generally speaking, and this doesn't even apply to the Browns, I think this is just everyone in the NFL, you got to be careful about overreacting to anything at this time of year, positive or negative.
For sure. I think one of those guys who popped not only at minicamp but all of OTAs has been Elijah Moore. It feels like I said this last week on the show, like Kevin would have been in Minnesota when Percy Harvin was there, and I'm not saying that necessarily that he's going to be what Harvin could be at his best, because Harvin at times at Florida is one of the most versatile, dominant college football players ever, and he had flashes of that in the league. But I do think that there is a Swiss Army knife quality to him, and it feels like he has the talent to live up to that. Like everything, he's got to prove it in the season. He hasn't done that yet in the NFL level. But I saw signs of somebody who looked pretty special. What did you make of him?
Well, flashback, a year and a half ago, to the 2022 off season, and the Browns trade for Amari Cooper, and then like during the season, you're like, they gave up what for him? They gave up a 5th-round pick to get this guy. This guy is so much better than you would think, given the trade. And I think people might be talking the same way about Elijah Moore this season. Like the Browns just had to give up. They just had to move from the 2nd to the 3rd round, and they got this guy.
Yeah.
The talent is there. And I even think the Jets would admit, they probably moved on from him a little early. Their situation got a little complicated with Aaron Rodgers and the guys that Aaron Rodgers wanted there, and trying to rework the receiving core around what, the type of players Aaron Rodgers wanted. And, for whatever reason, it just didn't work out for Elijah Moore last year. I think, number one, they didn't throw him the ball. I mean, his targets were like an absurd low number. And I think he got frustrated. I mean, we all saw their quarterbacks play last year. Like, what receiver would not get frustrated by that? So I think that a fresh start really could be massive for him, and I think the Browns could be the beneficiary. Like, I think he could have a monster year, especially considering he gives them exactly what they need, like a guy that can separate out of the slot. They didn't have really either one of those guys. They didn't really have a reliable slot receiver, and they didn't have anybody that could really separate, particularly after Amari got hurt midway through last year. So he gives them an element that they really, really need, and I think he could have a huge year. I could see him, and you saw it in minicamp, like, he's not going to be Kareem Hunt. That's not what I'm saying, but they were using him kind of like they used Demetric Felton or Kareem Hunt. Like, I got that vibe in some of the formations they were utilizing him out of. And, I think they're experimenting with that right now. Like, I don't think anything is set in stone, but the fact that they're experimenting with ways to get him on the field, I think tells you everything you need to know about what they think about him. I think he's going to be a huge X factor for the Browns this season.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting, Watson, last week at the golf outing, and even just talking about the differences in the offense and the stuff that it's all the same base, right? But it's just they've spent this offseason putting in these other things, and I agree with you. And honestly, to be even more finite on your point, I think you'll know in those practices against Philly, don't you? I mean, that's really the one I'm looking forward to is, what does that look like against a team like that? That's when you'll know if you've got a team or not, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was a little hard last year, I think, to evaluate the team in the joint practice, because that's when all the Watson drama really was culminating.
Sure.
And it just, it was a distraction for me in the sense that, I had a hard time even watching practice because we were, focused on covering that story. But I even think for the team, they could feel a little bit of that distraction. And, you came away thinking, man, Philly might be pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we could get a much better sense about what this team might look like if they can, in a joint practice, really stick it to somebody, which I think can be a little bit indicative about what kind of team you're going to have. I mean, I remember people saying, man, Philly is going to be good.
Yeah.
After that joint practice last year.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. I mean, Jake, you remember them just getting off the bus? You just went, good Lord. Those two lines of scrimmage were just absolutely monstrous when they walked in here. There was, it was I remember the only question we had was, is Jalen Hurts going to be ready for all this? That was it. And that was a legitimate question at, last year at that time. And that'll be the same thing kind of with us hanging over it. If you were to hook Kevin Stefanski up to a lie detector test and say, what would you want this offense to look like? Percentage run pass, percentage gun, percentage 4 wide. What do you think he views as the optimal way to take advantage of the skill sets of this team?
I think the balance is throw it as much as you can while still being two-dimensional. And I don't know what percentage that would be for him, but like they are moving toward being a passing offense, but they also want to have the threat of the run, especially considering they have one of the preeminent running backs in the NFL still in Nick Chubb. So I don't know what the breakdown would be for that. Like, does 60-40 sound about right to you? I mean, they've tried to be 50-50 a lot under Stefanski, particularly when Baker was quarterback and, initially those first couple of years. It feels like 60-40, maybe 65-35 is what we're headed to. But I think there's going to be some games this year where they throw the ball like 55 times. Like, I think that's coming as well. So it might be something that they fill out a little bit, see how this receiving core comes together, see what Watson looks like. Obviously, that's going to be a huge factor in all of this. Is the offensive line healthy? All of that's going to factor in. But I think in the 60-something range is how often they want to pass the ball. I know that seems high, but don't you think that's fair, Beau?
I do. I do think it's fair, and I think you'll see – you have to remember, too, like Kareem Hunt isn't on this team anymore. So, there was – especially, maybe not last year as much, but in the previous couple of seasons, there was this obligation of like, we got to get touches, for all these guys. Like your two best offensive weapons were both in the backfield, and that's not the case anymore. So I think you're right. I think 60 feels about right, and I think you're going to see, I think Nick Chubb is a weapon to close out games. I think you want Nick Chubb healthy in December, in January. And full go then when the weather gets to be crummy. But I think especially early, Jake, I'm with you. I think that you're going to spin this thing around. And quite frankly, you look around this AFC, that's the minimum requirement. You got to throw it when everybody knows you're going to throw it, or else you're not going to have a chance against Mahomes and Burrow and Allen.
Right. And it's going to come down to out-dueling these guys in the playoffs. I do think, 15 carries for Chubb is probably going to feel about right. Especially the first half of the season. I think that's going to be right around where they try to land at, which, again, doesn't seem like a lot for Nick Chubb. And this is a town that loves running the football. And
Sure.
I think that it might be a little frustrating with how few carries Nick Chubb gets early. But if he can be a difference maker in the playoffs and they get there where he can be a difference maker in the playoffs, nobody's going to care about that.
No one will care. I'll get you out of here on this one, bud. Is there one question outside of, Deshaun reverting to what he was, 2 years ago in Houston, is there one question on this roster that you think is not answered heading into camp, or do you think that this team is fully formed or as close to as need be heading into camp?
I would say if you're looking for a second, it's just, can this defense coalesce around the scheme that they're going to employ where, they're going to be bringing 5+ every down after the quarterback. I have confidence that the corners are going to be able to hold up in man coverage. Like, I think that they probably didn't run man coverage nearly enough last year, given the talent and then given, all the defensive breakdowns they had in the secondary throughout the season. But, you're talking about, Miles, and there's a lot of intriguing parts around him, but you just want to see how it all comes together. One thing that they have done, Beau, is like, you try to do a 50 – I think you guys were doing this the other day. You try to do like a 53-man projection, and they have like 15 defensive linemen. Like, they're going to be thick in front. I mean, it felt like they couldn't even get 4 last year. I mean, they have done a really good job just – we'll see what the quality looks like, but the quantity is crazy, how many bodies that they've added up front. And I think the idea is they want to be able to fire guys out there, to make some plays and keep guys rested and try to be as disruptive as possible. I think it's going to work out, but like, we haven't seen it yet. So I think that that's a question. Like, how's this defense going to look under Schwartz?
Really good players are going to get cut is the reality of it. I mean, you're like the receiver room, like there's guys who are, it's going to be the last couple of spots are going to be, man, the margin is going to be razor thin when you talk, because you're right. I mean, that defensive line room, you got to get that way down, man. Either that, or if you're going to carry a lot, you're going to rotate a lot. It's got to come from somewhere else. So, really good football players are going to be sent back. It's just the way it's going to go. There's no really other way around it. So, going to be a fun camp, buddy. Thank you so much for your time on a Monday. Appreciate you, bud.
All right, see you, buddy. Take care.
All right, that's our good buddy Jake Trotter of ESPN on the Twisted Tea Hotline. Brought to you by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. Coach, coming up at the top of the hour, you listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back to the undisclosed location on the west side of Cleveland. Merely Beau and Luminaries. Coach Stefanski, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
I'm great, Beau. Thanks for having me.
You were familiar with this place upon walking in.
This undisclosed location was the home to the Stefanski family for a few weeks there in the spring of 2020. So I know this place well.
You know it well. We've enjoyed our time here. We're going to be sent packing in early July. The only thing, it is quite monochromatic.
Yeah, the walls were closing in on us. Listen, we loved being here, and then finally when we got to move from Minnesota, which was delayed with the pandemic, but then we were excited to get out of here as well.
The last week, you're building towards this. Your whole off season, builds into mandatory minicamp. You guys, from our vantage point, look like not only did you have a lot of fun, but you got a lot accomplished. How did it feel to you?
It was awesome. It kind of set out what we wanted to accomplish. That whole off-season program, you try and be so intentional about what you're doing, what you're practicing, what you're meeting on, and those type of things. And then we end with the mandatory minicamp on purpose. You can move that around. It doesn't have to be the last thing you do. But just felt like it's the time to get everybody under the roof together, the last mandatory thing you get so you can message as you go out on our little break here. And it really it's that jumping off point. We talked a lot about building a foundation in the spring so that you could have a jumping off once you get back together in July.
Use the building the foundation. If we take that analogy a step further and say you're building a house, what is that? What was done? Is it footers or walls up? Are we?
We talked so much about foundation. I found out that Coach Callahan worked in foundation,
of course he
pouring
did.
Cement. As his first job, told a lot of stories about pouring cement in the suburbs and city proper in Chicago. But for us, really what it meant in a lot of ways, and again, it's figurative, but, fundamentals and technique.
Mm-hmm.
I know that gets thrown out a lot, but to me what that means is individual drills with your coaches, with your O-line coach, with your defensive backs coach, and doing the mundane, simple things over and over and over and again until they become routine. That's really the when we talked about this offseason, what was it about? It's not about getting up on the board and drawing 400,000 plays, which we can do. It was more about the fundamentals and techniques, and then kick it into, okay, let's talk about scheme. Well, offense staying the same but changing. Defense, special teams new. So every side of the ball had to really work hard at understanding the playbook, understanding different concepts and that type of thing. And then, finally for me and for us, just the foundation of your culture, because year in and year out, as everybody knows, the teams don't stay the same. They change. Players come and go with free agency and trades and rookies and retirement, whatever it may be. Coaches, as we know, you come and go. You really have that 1 year that you're working on, and for us, that's where that focus is. You don't look behind, you don't look forward. You worry about 2023 Cleveland Browns and what can we do foundationally with our culture, with our relationships to get to know each other, and that's what an off-season program is about. That's when you get to lift together, you get to meet together, you get to practice together, and those are, again, the things that you do in the spring to get ready for a grueling season, a 17-game season plus.
I want to get back to the plan through it all, but you hit on something when you talk about the grueling part of it. When you set out this off-season plan, knowing that you got the extra week with the Hall of Fame, we got the Philly practices, we've got Greenbrier, we have these things. How cognizant were you of, I need to build a team, but I got to keep it fresh? How did you balance all of that to keep them from being mundane, to keep it from being grueling? You want to have some of that, but at the same time, it's got to stay fresh, doesn't it?
Yeah, and football's hard.
Yeah,
that's the easy part that's the easy thing to plan. It's going to be hard. Practices are hard. For us, it's a unique year in that we get to play in the Hall of Fame game, so we get that extra week. And the way that we set about, as we looked at it, was, okay, we're fortunate to get this extra week. How should we use it appropriately? Well, the way I think about it is we just lengthened our runway into week 1 of the season. We're not necessarily trying to get our team ready to play in the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah,
that's a great opportunity. It's going to be an unbelievable experience. I'm so thrilled that we'll be there. Are both teams going to be ready to play a football game? No.
Yeah.
but it's going to be a great competition of young players versus young players. So really for us, it's, okay, look at all these extra days we have. How do we then use those to our advantage to springboard into week 1 of our season? I really like how the preseason laid out for us in terms of the the teams we're facing and the schemes that we're facing, and then it's about getting ready for week 1 and week 2 and et cetera. Again, 17-game season plus those you got to be real mindful as you plan your program to know that it's a long haul.
Since you've been here, one of the big words I would say that would be accurately to describe your approach has been collaborative. You guys are big on you want to have a lot of voices, bounce things off. You had a full season. Let's stay offense for a second. So much familiarity, but also familiarity with quarterback. Full off season with Deshaun. He was sensational last year on Tuesday last week. Just sensational out here in the 9 and 10 with the 9 touchdowns. What do you sense from him? What have those conversations been like, and how comfortable now are you two in terms of, hey, what do you want here? And this is what I'm seeing here. What difference does a year make there?
Yeah, I think with Deshaun, but really any player, as you've gone around the sun once together, and you've gone through the good times, the bad times. There's so much football that happens during the season that you make adjustments. You change. Hey, you really like this. Now we're going to run this another way. Hey, you didn't like this. We're throwing this out. So there's just so much that happens year to year, particularly with the quarterback, because if a quarterback likes the play, I love the play because he's going to make it work. So that's where, I say it all the time. I was fortunate to be exposed to a bunch of different offenses, and they all work. They're all good. It's just what do you hang your hat on? What does your quarterback believe in? Because when the quarterback has a great belief and understanding of a given play and any type of concept that you want to talk about, they make it work. They know where to get through in their progression. So that's where I would say Deshaun in 1 year's time has come the farthest in knowing our system, what he likes, molding it to his eye, if you will. I think he feels really, really comfortable.
He looks really, really comfortable. Are there any moments, I know you're doing your business, but are there any moments, especially last week, where, and I'm sure there were these through OTAs, where you just look and go, okay, there's a throw?
Yeah, he's so physically gifted. And really, we've seen that from the moment we put eyes on. I mean, shoot, everybody can think back to his college days, to his pro days. I mean, he's so gifted and so talented from a arm talent perspective, from a movement skill perspective. He does things in practice. Every practice I've been a part with him, where he just spins the ball, and you realize that's what it looks like with elite guys. I've been very, very blessed to be around some elite guys, and in terms of talent and physical, mental, arm movement skills, all that, he's right there at the top.
I want to ask you about Elijah Moore. Watching last week, and I don't know if there's anything to this or not, but you had Percy Harvin in Minnesota. And notice some of the stuff that Elijah was doing looked similar to some of the stuff that I've seen people use Percy with, going all the way back to his time at Florida. I don't know if our fan base is aware of quite the Swiss Army knife that he is. He's a fun toy.
Cosign.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting with Elijah. A lot of this spring was to try to find out what he, use him in a bunch of different ways. Like let's don't think of him as a slot receiver. Mm-hmm. Don't think of him as an outside receiver. Don't think of him as a guy. Think of him as all those things, and let's just work him in. What I love about the kid is he has the capacity to do it all, learning-wise. You can put him in anywhere you want, and he's got it. He is so competitive. Mm-hmm. This kid, he cares a lot. This kid
we use
really,
give
really
a damn
cares.
on this show.
Can I say it? Yeah, give a darn. His give a darn meter. We have some youth in the room.
We got the youth camp going on.
Yep. So
sorry, Murph. Sorry.
His give a darn meter.
Good job out of you.
Is very, very high. So just he's fun to be around. He's so smart. And just going back to Percy, I had Percy when we drafted him at the Vikings. Kevin Rogers, who's on our staff, was there when Percy first came in. Bill Musgrave, who's on our staff, was there with Percy. So we do have a lot of plays that we have with Percy, and they're similar in some ways and different in other ways. But Elijah does have, I think, that ability to do a bunch of different things. He's also a really good wide receiver.
Yeah.
If you just think about him, don't talk about where to line him up and what routes. He's a really talented young man. So I don't think there's a limit on what you can do with him. Obviously, you can't go into a game plan and do everything all in game one or game two and those type of things. But he does have the versatility that allows you to try to attack the defense in different ways.
I remember you guys loved him in the draft. AB loved him in the draft, and his route running is so crisp. I mean, he's really got a masterful handle on it. It's so much fun to watch the separation he gets.
Yeah, and again, it kind of goes back to you watch him because of his size. He's not the tallest. He's not the heaviest or that type of thing. So he's a smaller player, but that has not stopped him one bit from winning outside at all, because he's fast. So what do DBs respect? They respect speed. So you just watch his time in New York, watch his time in college. He wins on the outside, and it's a combination of route running. It's a combination of twitchiness, quickness, speed, just to go get balls. So I'm very high on the kid. I think he's the physical talent I think everybody sees. But what I didn't know until I got around him was how much this kid cares.
You're building. You get it. You talk about that care. You talk about that teamwork that you have on the team. You got to have it in the staff too. You got new Bubba. You got Jim in here. How has this gone as you now break for the summer?
Yeah, great. And not surprising. Jim's done it. He's done it at a high level. Has the rings to prove it. He and I are very, very similar in how we see the game, kind of how we were raised in this game, if you will. I have a ton of respect for him, the coach, him, the person. He's had a huge impact already on our defense, on our staff, on myself. I count him. I'm very fortunate to have him. I always tell people I walk out of my office, to the left I got Jim Schwartz, former head coach. To the right I got Bill Callahan, former head coach. So I'm just very blessed to have Jim here with us. And then Bubba's been great. I think Bubba he's not been doing it for 25 years, but he's been playing for about that long. So I think just when you measure experience, a lot of us measure it in years. But if you look at his experience as a player, where he played, the coaches he played for, special teams, and then the opportunity to be a coordinator there in Indianapolis before he coached prior he coached in New England. But his experience is vast, and don't just measure it in years, measure it in who he was around, some of his experiences. And I think his playing career, I think, lends credibility immediately to our players.
You throw that tape up, and then you go, "This is what this is."
He often does too.
Does he?
He's not shy about it, and I wouldn't.
Good and bad.
I wouldn't be shy about it either. Yeah.
Because when he was in here last week, I mean, you got to show the bad ones too, and he said he does.
He does.
Both, so that's
good. To his credit, he does.
Defensive personnel. I wanted to ask you: Tomlinson, Smith, Oboe, Hurst. A little bit of go there too. It's hard on defensive line when we see, obviously, but in terms of the look test, Coach, it looks like AB did a pretty good job up there.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Beau. It's impossible for offensive line, defensive line in the spring. There's no contact, none. So it's just hard to get a great feel for players. Having said that, we know these guys. There's some known commodities among that group. Really, really excited about that group. Excited about the talent in that room. Excited about the versatility in that room. Excited about the experience. The guys have kind of been through it in a lot of ways. So I think it's a really good group that we got.
As you set out, you got to decompress too, man. You got some time for yourself and the family set aside this summer.
It's coming after. I got to get through all the driving, all the carpooling to camps in the month of June.
Coach sits down.
It's a logistics nightmare.
Where our children are around the same age. He sits down, and I said, we were talking about the youth sports, and I said, I go, have you heard my idea? And Coach said, Uber Kids.
Yeah.
And I said, have I said this to you before on the show? No. Great minds.
Think alike, and so do ours.
That's right.
Yeah, it's. I mean, literally on the phone. I'm driving to this camp, and who's got this, who's got that.
Yeah.
And I know many of our listeners know exactly what we're talking about. Once school ends, it's going all around town. So I am all around Northeast Ohio for the month of June.
Are you when it comes time to unplug, are you a mountain getaway, lake getaway, beach getaway? How do you unplug?
Definitely beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've said this before. I'm an avid indoorsman, so you won't find me fishing. You won't find me hunting. You won't find me hiking. I'm sitting by the beach, got my feet in the water, hopefully.
All right. And as we get to camp and we go over to Philly, can we get a little bit of a scouting report on what we ought to do when we're there? Places to eat, things to do, golf courses, these type of things. Because unlike you, we're going to have some downtime.
Yeah, no, I have it all. I think no one's more excited than my dad to just give out the restaurant list that he's like been cultivating. So he's got all the spots. You will go home heavier than you arrived.
That would be amazing. to have your pops give us a little tour of the culinary. I look forward to that
He's
greatly.
in. Yeah, trust me. There's things that he's passionate about, and top of the list is food in Philly.
I'll get you out of here on this one. Now that you're done with minicamp, is it relief? Do you wish you could start today on camp, or what's the feeling as you head into the summer?
Yeah, I mean, I will unplug. I will turn it off there for a minute, but I'm not there yet. Just this morning, just being around, and it's hard not to have the mind wander into game planning and looking at some of your opponents and thinking about things. So I know I have to turn that off for a minute and charge the battery up, and I will get there come July. But for now, I still find myself looking at some things that we can hopefully do come September. But that is the fun part of our business, is getting ready for these games, and in a lot of ways it'd be fun to fast forward if we could.
Yeah. Great seeing you, buddy.
Good seeing you,
Thanks
bro.
for stopping by the undisclosed location. Our head coach, Kevin Stefanski, joining us here at the undisclosed location. So much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. The Cleveland Browns 2023 schedule is here. Get your single game tickets now for all the great matchup at Cleveland Browns Stadium. Visit clevelandbrowns.com/tickets to purchase today as we go around the sports world. It's all going to be done tonight, right? Denver clears it out tonight, and they get it sorted out.
I think so.
Feels like it.
Why can't the NBA have multiple games on the weekend?
So apparently, they played Friday, right? Is that when they played? So they went from Miami to Denver. So they still do the 2-2-1-1-1 thing. So then they add the extra day to get it out there. It did not occur to me until last night at 8:30 that it wasn't last night. And then when that wasn't on, I went for the NHL. I'm like, there's got to be an NHL game on. They were off last night too. So the NBA will go tonight. The NHL will go on Tuesday for those.
Can we get this right? Because, it was kind of a sorry day in sports yesterday. I mean, the Guardians with a big win, but they got moved up because of the weather.
Yeah.
First pitch at 12:30. I'm still on the golf course.
Yeah, it was it's tricky. It was strange and kind of a reality of this is the job.
Of what's to come?
Yes. This is the reality of, and for our business, I mean, we're doing a Brown show here, but in our business, we have to create content. That's our job, right? Things to talk about. And the job of the Guardians, if you do big picture, throughout the state, whatever it may be, it's to be of interest this time of year. So the Guardians checks that box. They're interesting, right? Now
bats are starting to warm up a little bit.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, and they benefit from the division they play in. Whatever. Like they have a chance to be interesting and capture the city's emotion for the course of the summer, and that's the job. If you're in that operation, you want to make sure you're relevant this time of year. That's the deal, and so hopefully they are. But yeah, the reality is all of this is going to go away. Like this NBA is going to end tonight. The NHL is probably going to end on Tuesday for the people that are watching that, and that's it. One thing about the NBA that I did think was pretty interesting. This is a sport where Lakers, Celtics, Bulls, Spurs, Warriors, those 5 franchises, or even to take the Warriors out of it, you just go Spurs, Bulls, Lakers, Celtics. Those 4 franchises have won how many of the titles in the history of the sport? Got to be about half, I would think. Celtics and Lakers are both at 17. So that's 34 right there. 6 for the Bulls, 5 for the Spurs. You get there pretty quickly. You're more than half of the championships been won by 4 franchises. You're in a situation now where us in 16, Milwaukee, Toronto, Denver, going to win it tonight probably. You're getting some fresh faces in this sport winning these championships. You've got the Warriors won it last year to go on with their dynasty run, but this is now, for a sport that never had parity, the NBA's kind of stumbled into parity.
That's not a bad thing.
I would think it's a very good thing.
I would, yeah.
I think it's a very good thing.
I think that's a very astute. I was trying to think multiple winners, like the Heat won 3 or 4.
Well, if you want to take it, I mean, I just did the 4 of them, but if you want to add the Heat and the Warriors,
yeah,
the Warriors have 4, the Heat have 3. That gets you to 7. 34 plus 12.
I mean, you're around 50.
You're at 53 titles with 6 franchises.
Yeah.
And then the rest are just popped out there here and there.
But even a Golden State, it's
that
not
was
a big, not a big market.
Well, but it wasn't It wasn't until this new ownership that they started acting like their market size. Until that point, they acted like small potatoes, and then this new ownership maximized it and maximized the market.
You're right. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think, and it's proving that star power doesn't have to all come together and play on one super team.
Well, actually, I think it does that exactly. It proved that basically if you're
think
going
so?
No, I think what you're saying is true.
Yeah.
I think that if you're going to do a super team, LeBron James better be one of the 3. And then you can do it. Because you have to have – otherwise there's not enough depth to go around. Everybody else that tried to do this, there's not enough depth for the rest of the roster. The Celtics did it first, by the way, when they were able to swing the deals for Durant and Ray Allen.
Sure.
They made those trades.
Garnett.
I'm sorry,
Garnett.
not Durant. Yeah,
Sorry.
Garnett. No. Yeah, Garnett and Ray Allen with Pierce. Those were trades where they traded assets to get ready-made guys. They won the one championship. But then that led to a super team era where, LeBron did it obviously in Miami. Durant joined Golden State for a couple of titles. But it's very difficult.
It hasn't worked. It never worked in Brooklyn.
No.
And they were loaded.
No, they tried a couple of times. Two different incarnations. The Harden, Irving, Durant one, and then they had the elder statesmen when they had Pierce and Garnett, Joe Johnson and those guys. They tried it there too. So it's really hard. It's really hard to do. And this Denver operation is one there's really no end in sight. They're really long. They're under contract. They've got the best player. They're young. You're seeing like what Murray's all about. So, yeah, there's no end in sight for them. It sounds like Tyler Hero's going to play tonight for the Heat, but I don't even know what he can do. He's a great shooter, 22 points a game, but like
too little, too late.
Too late against this team.
Yeah.
Too much of a matchup.
And then, like you said, if everything ends in the next 48 hours, welcome to the doldrums. I mean, you have baseball, but that's it.
Yeah, it falls away. And for me, and I've said this before, I know, Coach's son still plays baseball. Mine moved off of it and went the lacrosse route. So they're not dialed in at all.
My one nephew plays baseball. The other one is like, no.
Yeah.
Like, let's get ready for football.
Yeah, my kids are not into it. They were more interested in the Champions League final, and they don't even play soccer. They were more interested in that than the baseball. So I don't know. You never know what's
So
what's gonna lead them around.
speaking of drilling and whatnot, I noticed your beautiful other half posting on social media, you putting the boys through their paces.
That's right.
On a Saturday morning.
So I didn't know that I had paparazzi in my own backyard.
But you do.
Apparently I do. And not only is she a paparazzi, she's the worst form in that she's publishing it without my permission. Publishing images. I mean, like, these are closed practices, man. You see that? There's a lot of woods around there in that image.
Yeah.
You can't see through.
Yeah.
That's
it's
the
like
whole idea.
Clinic Courts where
That's
the Cavs go in Independence.
Right.
It's a valley on one side and it's
That's it.
It's
I go, what are you doing?
Giant trees.
Is there no trust? Can we not have a trust tree here?
I liked it. A little Saturday morning workout because it was a hot day.
Well, we had to get it in
early.
We had to get it in early. Yeah. And I was just looking at them and I was like, they were, it's hard. They've been out of school for a week and they gravitate towards they want to go to the screens and all that.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
I was like, man, we're going to get out. As soon as I see get your shoes on, what are we going to do? Don't worry about it. We're gonna make men out of you. That's what we're gonna do. That's how it's gonna go.
This is a push more with a blade on it.
That's right.
Start pushing.
We got them working a little bit on that.
What was the drill? What was the?
It was all hoops related. So
yes.
it was quickness stuff, in and out of breaks, pace. How to the thing with basketball is you don't have to be the fastest player. In fact, in many instances, it's not very helpful to be. You just have to be fast amongst your speed. So what I mean by that is you have to, if your speed, you have to be able to accelerate quickly within your speed. And so I was trying to teach them how to, rise up, break quick, get people on their heels, that type of stuff. So we had a bunch of drills.
I think the other thing is, and I hate math, which my mother shudders every time she hears it because she's a math teacher.
Yeah.
It's all about the angles.
It is.
Cutting off the to the hoop. Like, how do you get in front of guys? How do you stop the break? How do you slow it down? How do you get in front of somebody defensively? Yeah. Offensively, best path to the basket.
Yeah.
It's all about the angles.
And offensively, if with the ball or without, it's getting to your spots.
Yep.
Get to places you're comfortable in. If you're off ball, finding a way to catch and shoot to where it goes up quickly. Because what we find out as they're getting older is you don't have space anymore.
No.
So you've got to be ready at catch to fire. So we had a little bit of fun with that. And then
nice.
So it was so funny. They're so hard on Bootsy, and I'm like, dude, he's 7. Can we give him a break?
I was even talking though. I responded to her post. I was like, make sure he's on the line and he's running drills and the toes touching the other line.
Well, he won't. Yeah, it'll be the oldest who would try to bail early on a line touch. That'd be the way that would go.
So do they just try to bully him?
Well, it's always me and Bootsy versus those two. So then they feel they try to bully him all the time. So I have to set up rules you can only block him once, you can only steal it from him once, and then they get mad. Well, then why do you steal it from us and all this? So
Because
this is
I
what we
can.
do. Yeah, because I'm making the rules.
Yeah.
Kids. That's
That's
the way
right.
that's going to go. The Chiefs were at the White House last week for their visit. Did you see that Mahomes would not let Kelsey talk?
Probably a good move.
Probably smart.
So I saw something. It's supposed to be coming out, I think, this week if it hasn't already come out. But on the Kelsey Brothers podcast, like Travis was going to tell what he was going to say on the mic. And I'm like, well, there was a tease. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably a great move by Patrick Mahomes.
Mahomes knows.
Sober Mahomes.
He knows him
Unlike
well enough.
the victory parade.
No, yes, it's all right. Well, he could shotgun one, too. Did you see
Yes,
him
he
over the
can.
weekend with that? Andy Reid, this is pretty classic. He breaking down the food that was served at the White House on the visit. Let's have a listen.
A French toast, grilled cheese, and ham sandwich that they sprinkled a little bit of powdered sugar on. I mean, it was phenomenal. The guys were, and there was abundance of this, and then they had chicken fingers, exotic chicken fingers to boot. And then maybe the best part was they had, which I hadn't seen before, but little bite-sized squares of the heart of the watermelon.
Simple man. I've never, ever heard. Did he say French toast, powdered sugared, grilled cheese with ham?
Ham and cheese. So the bread was the French toast.
So like the cinnamon
Yeah.
and French toast, they use that, and then they put ham and cheese on it.
Yeah.
That's hard for me to wrap my head into
grilled
all that.
ham and cheese, but using French toast bread with the powdered sugar, like French
It's
toast.
hard for those feel like they don't go together.
I listened back to that 3 times because I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Was it French toast and grilled ham and cheese? No, it was.
Like I could see you doing like a brioche toast with ham and cheese, but to do like true French toast seems crazy.
And I was thinking, I was like, well, was it like a Texas toast?
Yeah,
like
right.
kind of deal?
Right.
No, because you're not going to do Texas toast and then powdered sugar on it. Like
I
you're
wouldn't
actually
think.
using French toast. I don't know.
God bless him.
I want to know what exotic chicken fingers are. Like, what is makes them exotic?
Teriyaki sauce?
I don't have an answer.
Feels like
There was no follow-up. I was disappointed.
Yeah, that was it. I did see this over the weekend. We talked a little bit about the Women's College World Series and how the ratings have been up on that. This weekend we'll now transition over to the Men's College World Series, and Virginia's in the mix. And their pitcher is a kid, their relief pitcher is a kid named Steven Scooch is his name. This thing went viral over the weekend. You're about ready to hear why. Let's have a listen.
You know, you walk into a stadium, 8,000 people, they all want you to lose. But as long as you got your 26 guys ready to kick butt, you're going to be all right. Sorry I sweared. I shouldn't have
No,
sweared.
you're good, man.
I got you guys down right now.
Inning. What are the emotions like entering that inning?
Well, emotions are go in, win. I heard a fan offer free Dippin' Dots if I blew it, which the price of Dippin' Dots with inflation is just unreal. So for a brief moment, I was like, damn, Dippin' Dots sound good. But also I thought in the back of my head, we win today, we win tomorrow, or tonight. We're going to be here another day. That's more per diem. So that means I can buy my own Dippin' Dots and be a winner. So it's like, you know, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to attack. I think 3 words every time I'm out there. The first one's a swear word, starts with F. Second word's attack, third one's win. And I just repeat that to myself. Unless, you know, there's a breach in the system and I walk a guy and I got to tell myself I'm a few different things that isn't a winner. I might break that, but then I get right back on it, just this, attack, win, you know? And
Steve,
it's really easy pitching when you got a defense like ours, I tell you. It's so easy when they're behind you. As long as you keep it in the yard, you got a chance, which is pretty cool.
Does anything make you nervous?
Caves. Mainly. Nothing really. I mean, I don't see any caves out here. I know we're in the south, but it's not the desert. That's where I find most caves are probably at. But, you know, this is just a game. There's going to be way harder things in life than striking out the side or not walking somebody. So I don't really get too caught up in all the jibber jabber and all the mean things people might say to me, because it's just, you know, I think I'm a cool guy. My dogs think I'm awesome. My teammates like me. and my friends like me, so I'm going to attack. I'm going to win. Simple.
Here's one last one for you.
Yeah, no problem.
You've heard this before.
Yeah.
When people say Kenny Powers, what do you think?
I think, damn, I'm doing a good job. Because like I said, the dude took 86 to the big leagues after being out of the big leagues. You kidding me? You kidding me? He took that and turned it into a winner. So people are like, oh, Kenny Powers. I'm like, I mean, I might throw a little differently, a little firmer than he did after, he started boozing and doing drugs. But, I mean, that probably won't be a big part of my life as it was his. But, hey, it's Kenny P. He's a winner. End of the day.
Before the question was asked, I'd heard much of that. I did not hear the part where they asked about Powers. But I'm like, this kid is clearly influenced by him.
Number one, he looks like he's 40.
Yeah, he does. He does look older. Yeah, for sure. The college baseball, have you ever had it at a place where it was a big deal?
No.
It's awesome.
No, my senior year, BG won the MAC, and I happened to still be up there after I graduated. I was there. I just lived there for a month because I didn't start my full-time job till June.
Yeah.
So I just partied every night and went to a couple baseball games, but it was never big because it would be snowed out half the time or rained out.
It's awesome.
Is it more popular than Major League Baseball right now?
I think what it is no, probably not. But I do think that in what it's become in a lot of campuses is what college basketball used to be and is in a few places still. But there are spots in the South where they'll put 25,000 people in on a Friday night, and fill it up. And there were times when I was in Florida when, like Mark Teixeira would come in with Georgia Tech, and Andrew Miller came in with North Carolina, and Khalil Green came in with Clemson. Like those guys would come into town for the weekend. Miami would come into town. Florida would come into town with Laporta, and you were like, holy cow! Like 12,000 people here on a Friday night watching college baseball, and we don't have that up here.
No.
There's not a program up here, and I think a lot of it obviously is climate, where you can't. And in those days, now they have a rule where they have to play they have to play the same amount of games. So in those days, like Florida State would start like January 5th. They would start playing games, and they'd play 2 months worth of a season before the teams up here had even started. But the SEC has thrown a ton of money into college baseball. They've thrown a ton at it. And so a lot of these places are fortresses, and they have huge crowds, and it's like this is what you do on a weekend in Knoxville. You go watch the Vols play. So that's the deal. LSU was the one that was the first huge one.
I was going to say they were the factory.
They were the first huge one, and then a lot of the rest of them followed from that point on. That guy's absolutely classic. All right, coming up next, Dalvin Tomlinson, some of his early impressions of camp. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. For nearly a century, Rumpke Families operate one of the largest waste recycling companies, providing top-level services to residential and commercial customers. That's Rumpke Waste Recycling. Visit rumpke.com to learn more. Now here's Dalvin Tomlinson from the podium.
So how's the transition?
You're down.
You've been here for a couple of months.
It's been pretty good so far. Got to know my new teammates, got learning my new teammates and stuff, learning their defense, and building a little bit of chemistry out here on the field so far.
What was your reaction when Za'Darius became your teammate again?
Super excited. I used to joke about I'd be joking with him. I'm like, he was going to miss me that much. He had to come follow me out here. So super excited to have Z back out here with me.
And how do you feel about him kind of joining you occasionally on some of those inside snaps as far as these 2 days?
It's going to be super exciting, I guess, because some of the similar stuff we ran last year in Minnesota together, with me and him running games and stuff together, and the chemistry's already there between me and him.
Dalvin, I know it was a few weeks ago now, but how did you hear about the trade? Kind of take me through where you were and how you first heard the news and everything.
You always hear rumors and stuff, and I hope it's a real rumor with this one. I remember I was at home on my computer, and somebody texted me, we got Za'Darius, and I was just super excited. It was yeah, we're gonna make some crazy stuff happen with this front up front.
And then just knowing everything he went through last year with the injury, how much do you think that he talked about it? But as somebody who knows him and watched him play, how much do you think that hindered him down the stretch of the season?
I felt like Z's a super tough person, and he just kept fighting and just kept playing some great football throughout the whole season. And as long as he stays Z, I feel like he'll be fine no matter what.
You guys are out there and you are in the defensive line, the drills, you guys are competing and you're getting a little chippy out there and competitive. What can that do for you as you guys are working to build that chemistry and really development for the younger guys too?
I feel like if you don't have that, you're not going to build the chemistry all along. But with the younger guys, we just bring them in as little brothers and stuff and just teach them the ropes. And we all just keep working that chemistry and just having fun out here is the biggest thing. So as long as we're having fun together, sweating together, and grinding together, the chemistry is going to come along great.
Do you see them responding to that with maybe extra motivation when they win one of the matchups?
Oh yeah, most definitely. When you win a matchup, everybody get to talking junk and everything, and you want to re-challenge somebody, and then just it keeps going back and forth, and I feel like it makes you better as a player too because you're going your hardest every single rep.
Speaking of practice, Dalvin, how tough is it to not have pads on? Coach talked about you got to fight the contact, and he mentioned the offense and defensive line, how hard it is for you guys. So as a player, how tough is it?
It's super tough up front because everything we do is all about physicality, and up front it's just you got to slow it down a lot and just focus on your steps and your hands and the small details. But you don't have as much time to focus on in the season when you get pads on.
Obviously, after tomorrow, you guys break, but you guys will be going down to the Greenbrier. As a veteran player, what does that mean to get away from here to kind of come together as a team and take that trip in training camp? How beneficial do you think it will be?
It's super beneficial just because it's just you and your teammates. I feel like you bond on a whole new level, and it's all football. You might have to be eating lunch, and the young guy might be asking about different plays and schemes or how you play this play or this technique and stuff like that. So I just feel like you get that little bond before we get to come back here and just make us a better unit up front across the board.
Knowing how Jim Schwartz uses his defensive line, crashing in, does that get you maybe a little bit more excited to get the pads on and to ramp up into training camp, knowing that is waiting for you?
Oh yeah, most definitely. It's just being a big, powerful guy. When they just tell you to go and explode off the ball, you get to use your weight to your advantage, I guess, at that point, and get to use all your power, and you don't have to just sit there catching blocks. Super excited, and I can't wait for it.
How amped up do you get when you hear a defensive coordinator say he wants his D-tackles to be Ferraris, not Tomlinson?
Oh, man, you'll never hear that. So, super ramped up for it, and like I said, I can't wait to get pads on in training camp, and I'm super excited for this season.
Does it feel to you like it's going to be a big change in systems from what you've been used to, what Jim wants to do up front?
Most definitely, just because I feel like with the systems I've been in, some of them been attack fronts, but it's just a different type of attack defense. And I feel like this one is just the most aggressive as they get. And just as a defensive lineman, to be able to use all your power and explosiveness every single play is like a dream come true.
What's kind of his one overarching message to the D linemen, how he wants you guys to play?
Just play fast. We'll rotate if you get tired, but every play give it 100%, no matter what, and just make sure we're running. We get to the ball, and cardio is going to be a big thing for everybody.
I asked you about the competition between the defense, but yesterday practice ended with some chippiness between the defense and the offense. For you, what does that look like? I mean, how much does that play into your game and getting you excited to see these guys getting chippy out there with each other?
Oh yeah, I feel like that's just the team building process right there, and it just makes you that more excited with football because when we get chippy and we all competitors out here and we're going to compete every single play. And I said that competitiveness is going to make us better as a team and each player better each play.
What have you learned about Obo since you've been around him?
Just how smooth he rushes. It's crazy. Sometimes he'd be rushing and it doesn't seem real. Like, or it looks like he slows down time in some of his rushes, and yet he's still moving super fast. So it's like just watching his pass rush, I feel like I know a lot of the stuff I'm not going to be able to do, but I'm going to steal some stuff from his arsenal with his pass rush.
What's it like when you look to your right yesterday and you see Miles, and then on the left you have Za'Darius and then Obo? Like, what can the four of you guys do as a group?
I feel like the sky's the limit with us up in there together, and just throughout the season, I just feel like we're going to be putting up a lot of different schematics together with that front, and it's going to get crazy.
To go off of that question, I mean, knowing like you guys aren't in pads that you don't have contact, do you get kind of like excited thinking about what's to come over these next couple months, like since we're not seeing the full picture of like what that front can do right now?
Yeah, most definitely, just because I already know what Za'Darius can do on the inside, and just watching Obo and Miles on film and, playing against them over the years and stuff like that, it's just with all of us together and bringing our different skill sets together, I feel like it's gonna. I don't know how to put it into words. It's gonna be amazing.
Off the field, you and Miles have a lot. Seems like a lot in common. Have you guys been able to create that bond, that chemistry yet, or is that still in the works?
It's still in the works for sure. But I felt like we all had a whole anime discussion yesterday, and they found out a lot of people watch anime. So it's in the works, and I think we got a couple celebrations coming up too. So keep your eye out for it.
Dalvin, going back to Jim Schwartz and his system and everything, how common is it to find one that's so simplified and straightforward like that? Like, have you played in one like that before, and how common is it today to find?
I don't think I ever found a defense, been a part of the defense this simplified, and especially in the NFL, it's multiple defenses. It'd be a 3-4 or 4-3, but it's multiple defenses. It depends on who you're going to play, and this one's straightforward, just like line up and go play some football.
Dalvin, another new defensive tackle here, Mo Hurst. I mean, this guy has dealt with injuries throughout his career, but it seems like he's out here every day going as hard as he can. Just what's it been like getting to know him and seeing how he works out here?
Oh, yeah. Mo's a great guy and super great technician also. And he's one of the guys who's played in the system before, so he brings a lot to the table for us. Just guys who haven't played in it, he always have things we can use to get a little edge and technique and stuff like that. So he's been one of our biggest technicians in this process so far, and Mo is a big part of our D-line so far.
Have you ever seen a defensive coordinator kind of put himself right in the middle of the field during drills like Jim Schwartz has done on 7-on-7 and standing by the center and everything?
Oh yeah, I had a few over the years, but Coach Schwartz takes it to a new level. I feel like I feel like sometimes he might be the 12th man on the field.
Yeah, and just what are your early impressions of kind of his impact? And like he said, he wants his presence to be felt. That's kind
most
of
definitely
the method behind that.
Yeah, he definitely brings the energy for our defense, and it's just the attitude he comes in, the energy he brings, just makes everybody that more amped up to go that much harder each day.
All right, good stuff from Dalvin there. We can report, according to Twitter, that the sandwich was the Monte Cristo sandwich. Many people, I've never had a Monte Cristo, but it looks like it's a ham and cheese, and then you put it in like the French toast, and then you grill it, and then you powder sugar it, and away you go. I've never had I've heard of one, and I've read the count.
I wonder what would make the White House staff
run that
prepare
out.
That. Yeah,
it sounds like it's delicious, though.
Sure.
Tomorrow on the program, Poisel will join us. Armando Salguero will join us as well. Thanks for listening, everybody. The next level is coming up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.